Hey, what's up, guys? It is your boy Kingdom, and I'm back with another video. What an event they had in London. I can't wait to go to one of these events. You know, every time we see a new one, we've only seen two, and I thought Minnesota was amazing, but London just brought it up a tier higher and brought it in a new way. And what I'm going to do is just give you guys my thoughts off the top, kind of what I thought of the event. I'm not going to look at my notes, and I'm not going to pull out KDs and all this kind of stuff, but from memory, I'll probably give you some of what I remember. And I will be doing a full-blown London recap podcast with Landon and Icon Nation on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to follow my Twitch channel. Link is in the description. If you want to not miss out on that, it's going to be great. And I will put the VOD up on YouTube as soon as it's available. But the first thing I got to say is congratulations to the Huntsmen, to the Chicago Huntsmen, to Energy, to the whole organization. Happy birthday, Hex. Happy 40 bomb to you. What a great present, you know, getting this W. And well played all around by the Huntsmen. And the one thing I'll say that I noticed about that team during this event is that they clutched up when it mattered. You know, they lost both of the hard points in the semifinals versus Paris, but clutched up in game 5 and beat them 6-0 in the search and destroy with Seth. I think he went like 13-4 or something ridiculous, 11-4. I don't remember what it was, but he did have the highest search and destroy KD at the event. Scump had the highest search and destroy KD at the event. And I'm not saying that to say that he's not a good search and destroy player. He's definitely a slept on search and destroy player, though, because historically, Scump has had people on his team who've placed higher in kill and deaths when it comes to search and destroy. But at this event, he showed out and showed up when it mattered, went off, and you know, I mean, because of what Envoy did consistently throughout all of the maps, most people are naming him as the potential MVP. I'm not really going to name my MVP until Monday. I thought that the venue was awesome. I thought the crowd was awesome. People were saying that there was a little moments where the crowd was shouting out the search and destroy like strategies of the other teams playing against London, and that's really unfortunate, but it seems like that was the exception and not the rule. The crowd was definitely a little rowdy, but as a viewer watching it online, I didn't really feel that. It just felt electric and like it was the London crowd that has always been the loudest and proudest crowd that we've had. And when you combine that with a London team that was pulling off some amazing victories. I mean, the crowd matters. The crowd absolutely matters. I believe London pulled a reverse sweep on New York to get themselves out of the bracket. And I'll be honest, some things that I learned from this event. Number one, the home team definitely has some home team hype. And London should have beat Dallas, but they let Dallas pull off a reverse sweep. Dallas, ice in their veins. Those guys proved that they belong in the top 4. I said they were in my top 4. I put out a whole video on why they're in my top 4, and they proved this weekend why they should definitely be considered in the top 4 of our esport. Right now, off the top of my head, I'll give an official power ranking on Monday, but off the top of my head, I would have Chicago, then Atlanta, then Dallas, then Paris. That would be the order that I would put power rankings in, even though right now on the scoreboard, Paris has more points than Dallas because Dallas didn't get any points when they played in Minnesota. Paris, I am sorry. You have shocked me to the core. And you actually played the Huntsmen as close as you could until it got to map 5. The way that you showed up, that Paris showed up in maps 1 and 4 was amazing. You know what I saw from Paris, I was looking at the kills and I was like, dang, Paris is drastically outslaying the Huntsmen. And map 1 made sense because the Huntsmen hadn't played all day. But going all the way to map 4, when they outslayed them again in hardpoint, and this was a team that hadn't lost in hardpoint before playing Paris. And so I think that Paris definitely stamped it. Okay, we are a top team in this game, period. Until somebody else proves that we're not, we are. And I definitely would put Paris in my top 4, right at number 4 below Dallas and Atlanta. And the only reason I'd put Chicago over Atlanta is because we've seen Chicago play more. And it's kind of hard not to, like if I had to, I'd put them at one and one equally. Now they both are going to be at the Atlanta Homestead, the next event, and this is going to be a doozy. I wish that we could watch Chicago play Atlanta right now. I guess back to the event though, I thought that the desk was good. Honestly, I miss TP. I tweeted it a couple times this weekend. I actually DM'd Maven and said, if Teep is not in Atlanta, I might cry. Nothing against Rich. I'm not trying to throw shade or anything like that. I am happy that when he got caked in the face on day one and had to change out of that sweater, I was actually happy because I think there's something to be said for, you want your casters and your talent to be comfortable but professional at the same time, and you don't want people that are tuning into your esport for the first time to kind of think your esport is a joke. I'm not saying Rich is a joke, but that, his sweater was a little too out there, in my opinion, for the desk. And so when he had to put on a pink t-shirt, I was like, that actually looks more professional to me. So, but I do miss Teep. I just, his insight, and to have someone who's a world champion, I don't even know how many championships Teep has, but he's been part of a dynasty. He's played with the best in the world. He's played for the best organizations in the world. He was the coach of one of the best teams ever in the history of our esport, and to not have him on the desk just kind of is mind-boggling to me. Frankie, freaking amazing job she did hosting. I thought she knew Call of Duty. Like, she just had this immediate chemistry with all the players and the pros, and she had a great loud voice, and she did an amazing job. I honestly hadn't heard of her before this event, but I have now. Her and Praggy both have or I guess Lottie is what everybody calls her, but they impressed me. Lottie gets better and better at every event. Nameless did a good job on the desk, and his keys to victory were fairly legit. Like, when the teams that won, they kind of matched Nameless's keys to victory. Dallas, GG's. I was impressed. I actually was happy to see them make it into the grand final. I wanted to see it. I know that this was a London event, and having London versus Chicago in the grand final would have been bananas, and it actually probably would have went to more maps. The thing with Dallas and Chicago is they played so close. It was like watching them play on Cave. They played so close. It was like watching a grudge match, like just punch after punch after punch after punch. It was like watching Hulk fight Thanos or something like that. Like, it was an epic battle every single map. And it was like I didn't know who was going to win until it came down to the last couple of minutes of the Dom, and until it was like, I honestly thought that Dallas was going to take the S&D. It was 5-5 and went round 11. I mean, how much better of a grand final could you get? Of course, we could get 5 games, which is what I wanted. The semifinals did not disappoint. Both of them went to 5 games, and I know some people expected Chicago to wipe the floor with Paris. But Paris showed up and said, hey, look, we are one of the best hardpoint teams in this game, and you shall not sleep on us. Period. Teams need to scout Paris. But I will say, just GG's Dallas. Ice in your veins. Every time Dallas seemed to get down and you would think like, oh, they're not going to be able to regain from this. They regained. Now, yes, they lost 3-0 in the grand final, but they played as close as you could. I mean, you went to round 11 in the S&D. You only lost by 15 points in the hard point. Like, it was close, and they had the lead for much of the Dom. They just kind of lost it towards the end, because Envoy went off. He went bananas. GG's to Envoy. I just really think both of those teams ice in their veins. And the one thing I'll say about Dallas is Chicago is a solidified, great superstar quality roster. It is predictable that they are going to always be top 3 in any tournament they play in this year. Atlanta, same thing. Even though those guys are young, they're a solidified GOAT roster. There's a lot of rosters in our esport, like the Gorillas, like Seattle, I kind of would even say the Mutineers, but the Mutineers, I see them as having a lot of, they have a future ahead of them. But there's teams that it's like they have a lot of past achievements, and we have to watch to see if they're going to get a lot of achievements this year. But when it comes to Dallas, they have a bright there's a saying like they have a big runway in front of them. They haven't even taken off yet. Like this team that went blow for blow with Dallas, that reverse swept in the semifinals to get into the grand finals and prove themselves, period. You guys can, like everybody's hating on Hastro and what he said, and he did go too far with his statement. And I love Hastro to death, but he went too far saying that there was a bias, you know what I'm saying? Because the Huntsmen have proven now 3 times that they are the better team than Dallas when it comes to LAN. Now, at the same time, Dallas is not garbage because they got beat by the best team in the game, or the arguably best team in the game until we see them against Atlanta. Dallas is not garbage. That team has gone. They got beat by Chicago, went into the losers bracket, made their way into the final bracket, and then reverse swept the home team to get into the grand finals. They played their hearts out and they never gave up. I think they have a lot to learn and they have a bright future. And so I mean, I guess I get the Dallas hate if you're a Chicago fan and all this kind of stuff. Formal's tweeting out like they're so much better online and all this kind of stuff. But it's not like they played poorly. It wasn't like Chicago hit them with a 3-0 and it was a hot 3-0. Like where what Atlanta did to what team did they blaze? Was it Dallas? Yeah, that they just it was like get off the stage. Like what Atlanta did to teams and the way that they 6-0'd people, that's not what happened to Dallas, and so this is going to be a grudge match all year long, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. Surprises on the low end, like teams that just really disappointed and did not meet my expectations. Unfortunately, I got to say New York. They were, again, they got a win, and it looked like, okay, this is a new New York. No pun intended. This is a new New York, and they got there. But someone said, and I think it was Merck, that they have players on that roster. And I saw it on Twitter. Temp was complaining about the time because they had to delay their match. They have players that can get things in their head and it messes with their game. It messes with their gameplay. And there's nothing you can do about that. When someone has it in their mind, like they're frustrated, they're disappointed, it's over, And so New York just really, the way they went down was unfortunate. I honestly had them beating Paris. I had them making the final bracket. And I had them playing, well, it would have been Chicago. And losing to Chicago, but I had them playing Chicago in the final bracket, and then Chicago going to the finals. Chicago still did what they had to do against Paris, but it took 5 maps, And so if we've learned anything right now, it's that New York doesn't belong in that even top 6 right now in this league. And that's unfortunate for the roster that they have. But again, that's a roster that has a big past, maybe not a big future. When it comes to Seattle, because I'm a Seattle, I'm a hometown boy, I was underwhelmed, I guess, by their results as well. They won a search and destroy and got themselves a W, again, just like New York, but then they just couldn't follow through with another one. And yeah, they played Dallas, and Dallas is one of the best teams in the game and all this kind of stuff. But I think Seattle has the potential to be a team that could break that top 6. But right now, with the top 4 that I named, you kind of have to throw London into the mix, and you would even throw Florida and Minnesota. There's lots of teams that would be over Seattle and Dallas, and towards the bottom you're looking at Seattle, and you're looking at, or not Dallas, sorry, Seattle and New York. Towards the bottom you're looking at New York, and you're looking at Seattle, you're looking at Lag. Unfortunately, OGLA's down there because they, haven't had a chance to play at a home series event. I'm sure they'll get at least 1 or 2 wins in Atlanta. But again, all I want to see in Atlanta is Chicago meet FaZe. And if they met, what would be amazing is if they met in the semifinals and only one of them was going to make it to the grand final. Like if one of them somehow got upset and knocked in the losers bracket, and then they met in the semifinal and only one was going to go to the grand final, because Chicago can only tie, or Atlanta can only tie Chicago in points, because now that Chicago has 70, Atlanta can only tie them in points because they have 20. But Dallas, well, I guess Dallas isn't going to be there, so they're just stuck where they're at. They're tied for third right now, I believe, with the Ravens, and so they're just kind of hanging out, and they got to wait, until the next event, the LA event. And I think in LA that Shotzi, Illy, Hook, all of them, they're going to be more clutch versus top teams because they were clutch. They were clutch this weekend, and they got the wins they needed. But I think they're going to be more clutch versus the top teams when it matters, because it mattered. And when it mattered in those grand finals, the clutches were coming from Gunless, who probably had the greatest S&D clutch that we have ever seen. And hopefully we'll be able to highlight it on the show on Monday. I guess that's all of my initial thoughts, guys. I just want to say congrats and bravo to the Huntsmen. Well played. They clutched up when it mattered. They had a team that beat them in hardpoint, and they have ice in their veins. I tweeted after they lost that first hardpoint, and they got outslayed. Like the kills were like all negative on the Huntsmen and all positive on Paris, and it was like, I tweeted and I just said, okay, now that they've got their thumbs warmed up, I fully expect them to win this series. And this S&D is an opportunity for them to regain, and they did. And then they won the Dom, and then they lost the hard point, and then they won the Search and Destroy 6-0. They were like, all right, we're done. We're good. And I will say that I am fairly impressed with what Chicago is doing in Search, and I guarantee you it has something to do with what FaZe is doing in Search. Because they know you can't be the best team this year. Now, of course, S&D wins championships, but in the past, some of the teams that these players have been on, like Optic Gaming and stuff like that with T2P and all that, they've been so dominant in respawns, you wouldn't even get them to a map 5. But even look at what happened with Paris. It went to map 5 to a team that everybody would say they were going to beat, but they got to map 5 and they showed, we're a better Search and Destroy team than you, period. And if S&D has to win championships, then we'll win our S&Ds. Now, when they go up against FaZe, I cannot wait to see the S&Ds versus when those two teams face each other. I guarantee you, if I'm Sender, I'm in the lab already right now. The event's over, but I'm on the plane watching VODs. I'm watching any scrims that FaZe has done with Search. I'm watching what they did in Minnesota, and I'm preparing my team to face off against arguably one of the best put together S&D rosters we have ever seen in the history of competitive Call of Duty. And if Chicago can prove that they're better, and if they can one-up FaZe in Atlanta and win Atlanta's homestead, they will without a doubt be the GOATs, the best in the game, and we'll be looking forward to a long year of championships, or whatever they're going to be called, for these dudes. We'll be debating that on the show on Monday. I'll see you guys live on Monday, 7:30 Eastern on my Twitch channel, for Recap Podcast with Landon and Icon, produced by none other than the GOAT, Goalie TV. He's changed his name to Goalie MH, but I'm going to call him Goalie TV anyway. Nevertheless, this is your boy Kingdom. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!